is the time that we vote in UNC.
No, keep your finger in the end. South for the UNC. East for the UNC. West for the UNC. No, keep your finger in the end. South for the UNC. East for the UNC. West for the UNC.
Now is the time that we vote in UNC.
Salute. This is a story about a country called TNT that turned yellow in the year 2020.
The people want the UNC. The people need the UNC. The people want the UNC. The people need UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. My people have no fear. Anti-Kamla is here. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC.
No, keep your finger in the end. South for the UNC. East for the UNC. West for the UNC. Keep your finger in the end. South for the UNC. East for the UNC. West for the UNC.
Agriculture people can make a living under the Rowley PNM, and we only suffering. Look the thief out the treasury and pull their pocket. Crowley and the friends them they run well racket. Yes, they run well racket. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. My people have no fear. Anti-Kamla is here. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC.
No, keep your finger in the end. South for the UNC. East for the UNC. West for the UNC. Keep your finger in the end. South for the
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, of course. This is, yes, the eve of the New Year's. And, of course, at 12 o'clock, of course, New Year begins. Let us, of course, appreciate to have lived this long. But at the same time, of course, we must understand that we have a burning, critical program and cannot, of course, out of conscience, have a program that talks about Mary and well. No, the program must say and reflect, of course, the existential situation in Trinidad and Tobago. We are reeling under a state of emergency. We have a government in place that is totally delusional and illusional. We have a government that clearly is a lame duck administration and refuse, of course, to call the date for the next general elections, constitutionally due inevitably, but of course they would resist next year. And so it is important, of course, that we understand the reality of our situation and that haven't been imposed on us recently. You notice up to day before, I was, of course, wishing people all the best, etc., etc. But now, all hell break loose. The government cannot, at the 2 or 3 days just before the end of the year, impose a state of emergency to effectively, of course, further damage the reputation of Trinidad and Tobago first and foremost. Let me repeat, to damage the reputation of Trinidad and Tobago first and foremost. Because all over the social media, we have a situation where people are just mocking Trinidad and Tobago, whether in St. Vincent, whether in Grenada, whether in St. Lucia, whether in Dominica, or whether, of course, in St. Kitts and Nevis, and indeed in Jamaica and Guyana. I could well imagine how the people in Guyana are rejoicing because of the level of dotishness that has been purporting to be, of course, government in this country, as Rowley, of course, in his usual hyperboles and his usual, of course, illusionary, nonsensical, and deep evil. The man is so damn toxic that, of course, no one now takes him seriously across the region and in the country. Imagine a state of emergency to be announced, and the Prime Minister is absent. And all over social media across the Caribbean, they are saying that, of course, Rowley is hiding, and all kind of caricature, all kind of lampooning, all kind of pictures to suggest a coward and a person who, of course, have abandoned and abdicated his duty and responsibility to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and could come in our faces. And I must now wish or have a program that suggests, of course, Happy New Year's. No! Happy New Year's will only come when the election is called. That is when. Outside of that, we have a duty and responsibility, because all over the place the police, of course, are now wreaking havoc in every single community, particularly, of course, those of the PNM constituencies. And within the announcement, they are so dishonest. Whether it be Stuart Young being the spokesperson, whether it be, of course, the narcoleptic Minister of National Security, or, of course, the other one who said that Cole Pot, and, of course, he's right to work on a bicycle, all that kind of hogwash, and, of course, misrepresentation, and poor and square peg in round hole decision makers under, of course, a criminal enterprise called the PNM. We have to be serious here, and therefore seriousness means if we have, of course, to forego the joyousness that, of course, traditionally the turn of a new year would bring. Traditionally, we have to make the government understand that there shall be no relenting, and that the only joy people will get is when, of course, they get the hell out of office. And getting the hell out of office means, unfortunately, that the Prime Minister has to, of course, make a decision to say when is the date of the elections. And I think that is something we must, of course, address frontally when the UNC and Kamala Persad gets into office next year. And that is to say constitutional change that, of course, includes fixed date for elections. So there can be no doubt. And nobody can say they have it in the shirt pocket, the fob, or the front pocket, or anywhere at all. Sometimes where the sun don't blast and shine, as far as I'm concerned. But this is a serious situation, and therefore we have to, of course, respond to it. We cannot play. We cannot fool ourselves. We cannot delude ourselves, because Rowley and they would love that to happen in order for us, of course, to deflect attention. And all of it, of course, is ephemeral or temporary. No, we must be consistent, and we must say to Rowley and they, whether it is New Year's, whether it was Christmas, whether it be Carnival, whether it be Easter, whether it be any one of the religious and or joyous occasions culturally in Trinidad and Tobago, we are razor focused. Razor and laser focused. We cut in tin, we cut in wind for Rowley and they to get the hell out of office by calling an election. Unfortunately, it is the rules, it is the constitutional remit of the Prime Minister. Or put another way, the person who holds the office of Prime Minister must call the elections, and that is why, of course, we have to be, of course, further, not just be patient, but to tolerate this level of incompetence, this level of toxicity, this level of evil, this level of macabre, this level of wickedness, this level of Machiavelli politics, this level of draconian measures that have, of course, devastated tremendous swathes of the national population. And I must wish and have a program that suggests merriment and joyousness. I say no. I say no. We have a duty and responsibility, of course. We have to be much more responsible than that. Rowley and they are the existential threat to Trinidad and Tobago. Rowley, PNM, of course, and his ministers, and we must let them know. Let them go and rejoice, because they have stolen enough. And in the fullness of time, they will have to account, whether here on earth, here in Trinidad, elsewhere, or when, of course, they are meeting their maker. Because evil could never prevail over good, and the proliferation and the spread and the mushrooming of evil is unprecedented are never contemplated in the minds of any self-righteous, but not just self-righteous, but any right-thinking, as well as, of course, conscientious citizen. This must stop, and therefore there can be no relenting. Let us, of course, go back to where we must go, and where we must go, well, I will tell you.
2020.
The people want the UNC. The people need the UNC. The people want the UNC. The people need UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. My people have no fear. Anti-Kamla is here. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Agriculture people can make a living under the Rowley PNM, and we only suffering. The thief for the treasury and for their pocket. Rowley and me friends, them they run red racket. Yes, they run red racket. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. My people have no fear. Anti-Kamla is here. Now is the time that we vote in UNC. Now is the
Finance, big shot, friends and family. So the whole of the country wants you know to stop lying. Cause the next election is a new party we voting. Like you forget your people once you in power and you moving evil, you had the whole place sour. And now that we discover is 2% that they offer. This is one little thing that I want all you to remember.
This man is totally toxic. The PNM, a criminal enterprise, must now make its hasty exit in 2025, hours from now. And we must be resolute. We must be resolute. We must be, of course, very focused, and we must be insistent and consistent. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Rowley, your pocket should they go, your pocket up, 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 your pocket up. Rowley mama planting garden long time now, but now she all and diet, she feeling a how. She passed the mantle to she's done without any doubt. Now Rowley only thinking and talking all about. You walk up the cabos and plant cassava, walk up Tyrannos and plant hot pepper, walk up the refinery and plant celery. You even go.
Yes, indeed, people. And of course, the African community will be reeling under this so-called state of emergency.
PNM must go. Tell them go. PNM must go. Everyone's coming out to bring about a change. I see young and old, we crying out for this. Yeah, want a government to feel policy, a government to do joke, a government to do fight we down, a government to do good, a government with integrity. Now look how they understand. A government in sweetie and tea, no without the ball head man everybody. PNM must go. Tell them go. PNM must go. Hey, now everybody let's vote. Put them out. Vote.
Yes, indeed. Instead of course, calling a blasted date for elections, he is looking, of course, to call a state of emergency. To do what? To do what? You did not, of course, listen to the opposition leader early in the year. Lives could have been saved. Now all these lives, and as he said, who dead, and who live. Well, we are telling him that the PNM is dead. It has collapsed. The government gone. Go.
Rowley had to go. Now everybody let's vote. Put them out. Vote. Put them out. Vote. Put them out.
Now is the time!
No, the time is no. No, the time is no.
Now is the time to vote!
No longer am I predicting 27 seats. I'm saying all 39 in Trinidad. Tobago, of course, will take care of itself, as they have done, of course, and demonstrated by kicking out the PNM handsomely, atrociously, for them at least. Atrocious defeat. And we must, of course, demonstrate and follow suit in Trinidad. 39 to Laventils, you better get on board to save yourselves, to save our society, to save our country, and to save, of course, our civilization called Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, indeed.
What time it is? What time it is? What time it is? Now is the time for action. Now is the time to build the nation, to seek for the children education. It's time for a leader who have a plan. Now is the time for action. Now is the time to reduce the tax. Now is the time for all crime to stop. This is the time we're not giving up.
So let's all join together as one. If you believe that the time has come, election day when you stay in your hand, it's for the UNC and the rising sun.
What time it is? What time it is? What time it is? Now is the time for action. What time it is? What time it is? What time it is? Now is the time for action.
Now is the time to put them out. Now is the time
Sing it.
to put them out.
And yes,
Them wicked people, fire up.
and yes, indeed, all must come on board. All, without exception. This is the time when your country needs you. And all of us must become patriotic, knowing full well and without doubt, without skepticism, or without any ambiguity, without any, of course, notion that you would regret. No, there is no regretting here. It is a consensus that has now morphed into a unanimous disposition by the population. The Rowley administration has collapsed, and we must, of course, get rid of them in short measure.
Anyone, he only needs God. He ain't no bad man, boy, nah. He ain't no bad man. So, sit down, rock back. Tell them I don't need no strap to defend my people from wicked and evil. Whoa. So, sit down, rock back. Big man, look for a walk. You're too damn evil. If they distress my people, then fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Oh, oh Lord, I said this is the year for love. Fire go burn them. Fire go burn them. Oh, say little boy, you and my.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh.
And really is not an adjective to describe the go. No, it must be, he has to go, he must go. If we are to live better, if we are to see a better Trinidad and Tobago, a better future. And I say to all of you young people who have turned 18 this year, last year, and will be, of course, next year, you have a duty to save your country from this marauding bunch of opportunistic, political, taxing, lying, evil, diabolical, and, of course, a totally incompetent group of individuals who have, of course, captured government, and they have demonstrated evil in high places against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, indeed.
Crime rate is out of hand, shooting up we blessed land. We need more protection, it's time to take some action. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. And the PNM don't really care, Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to.
From the Trinidad, location 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. SOS, SOS, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Help! Help! The Trinidad, a luxury liner, sailing the Caribbean Sea with an old captain named Eric Williams. Oh yes, it's smooth and free, but sadly Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a captain named Chambers. Me blood crawl, things start to fall. Hold me head when I sail a fall. Captain, this ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we gas tank almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship, or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do.
The population is patriotic. We will stay on the ship, but Rowley and they must walk the plank. They must jettison. They must understand that no longer can they be the typical singing loud and saying nothing, making plenty noise like an empty vessel, but going zero where. And the people have become sufficiently accurate, conscious, knowledgeable, and of course have no doubt in their mind. It is almost immutable, cannot change, that the Rowley administration must get the hell out, and 39 seats must be, of course, available to the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bissessa to, of course, effect the changes and the rebirthing of Trinidad and Tobago in the interest of all of us, as has been demonstrated when she was in government and prime minister between 2010 and 2015. Let us not waste time. We have wasted too much time. 9 years. And next year will be 10 years, a few hours away. Yes, I see, of course. Let's pause for a cause. Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to welcome.
Right. I call to say, God bless you all. I listen you all for the whole year. God bless all you all on that program. And I call to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago, next year, use all your finger and get out Rowley someday and vote in the UNC. God bless all you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the same to you and your family, and all the best for the new year. In the context only, with the assurance that the Rowley administration will no longer be there, and that he reluctantly will have to call a general elections, because this is what is the situation.
I want to invoke the doctor and then write him a letter. I want to ask him a question. If he knew what was going on. The other day I was passing, I hear people complaining. He is the man with the answer, but he quite over yonder. They say, snake in the valley, snake in the valley.
This is Caribbean Valley.
Yes, indeed. The PNM under Rowley, a total kleptomaniac. Yes. A pathological thief, kleptomaniac, rapist, pedophile, has morphed and converted the PNM into a criminal enterprise of a mafia nature, and has, of course, demonstrated the proclivity, the tendency, everything he touches turns to the biblical pillar of salt. Nothing for us. And therefore, total destruction after destruction after destruction. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has collapsed.
See and know when politics going wrong, with facts and figures prepared to show, it's better to bite your tongue. To them political boss, who the people trust and get double cross, you're an obstacle to be removed at any cost. Oh, a social conscience is really very dangerous to your health. The awesome strength of the powers that be most certainly will be felt. To tell them that their priorities and performances on the par. It's poetic to hear them describe to you who you are. First of all, you're a megalomaniac, a power seeker, a crazy or a crack, troublemaker. And if you tell them that the economy is no longer in full bloom, then you become a prophet of doom and gloom.
So people, of course, a clear description in music by the mighty Sparrow of the reality of the evil that has not just possessed the PNM, but they have, of course, projected it onto the country called Trinidad and Tobago. A blasted house slave, treating us as field slaves, betraying, of course, his own kind, and engaging in pseudo-racism to try to stay in office. No longer would that be. The Calcutta ship has long dissipated. The whole question of monkey and bananas have all but disappeared. And of course, the attempt, of course, to be subtle by, of course, engaging in all kinds of what I consider bigotry. We saw, of course, as a practicing Shouter Baptist, when Dr. Rowley made a mockery of our Baptist holiday by, of course, creating us a tune that talks about somebody touch him. But I say is manning that came from where he is and slap him. Somebody touch him what? And then, of course, the disrespecting of the Hindu community when there was this disrobing at one of the family days of the PNM. Total and utter disrespect for religion. And then, of course, his misogynic disposition, hater of women. And then, of course, his coarse and toxic and egregious statements when, of course, the people are attempting, of course, to express their right to speak in a democracy like this. He then, of course, tells us something that will, of course, insult, particularly when he is in the midst or addressing the media. And, of course, they too would have gotten their share of the excoriating and of course vitriolic statements that this wicked, nasty criminal would of course, and pretending to be prime minister, haul all your tail collectively and individually. Haul all your tail. This is what you all really are. And of course, we must of course tell them where to go. Youths, tell them where to go. Tell Rowley and they where to go. Yes, the same youths that Rowley is now searching all over the East-West corridor, Laverton, etc.
Everyone's coming out to bring about a change.
He has implemented a state of emergency that is indiscriminate. Anybody could be taken up. Don't mind the hogwash that young and narcoleptic Hines is trying to tell us, that it's targeting of course the gangs and those who hold. How the hell you will know that they have the rifles? How you would know that they have these high power guns as they refer to by a state of emergency? What, you have a crystal ball? So it means therefore a lot of innocent people will be of course discommoded. They will be disrupted. They will be of course taken down in that graph. There is no discrimination. And only Rowley and they, through hyperboles, old talk, and pretending that they know more than the rest of us. But at the end of the day, the government and the ideas of this group of individuals have simply collapsed, and that they are on their last legs and don't want, of course, to go in peace. They want us to go in pieces, but it will be the reverse. Put them out.
Put them out. They're only time to resign. Put them out. Put them out. Put them out. Put them out. When you see him waving bye-bye.
Hello everybody, listen to my song. The great Kamla Pasad Pisesa is the Lord around. Hello everybody, listen to my song. Kamla Pasad Pisesa is the Lord around. Hello everybody, listen to my song. Kamla Pasad Pisesa is the Lord around. Our great leader Kamala is a blessed woman. She would build back this country which has fallen very bad.
This is not ad hominem talk. This is not talk by guests expressed in music. We have seen it between 2010 and 2015. And just in case you are still in doubt and that you are recalcitrant to the truth, and that somehow you are in denial, it was Rowley when the question was asked of him whether people are better off under the PNM from 2015 to now as opposed to under Kamala Persad-Bissessar as Prime Minister between 2010 and 2015. And Rowley said that, listen, you had to be a fool if milk and honey was flowing under Kamala Persad-Bissessar and it wasn't better off. That is the bearer of death. That is the bearer of evil. That is the bearer of emasculation and circumcising the population, and believe that somehow generating evil policies is the way to stay in government and to manage. Whilst of course he and a small group eating ham, lamb and jam, and then of course telling us that that's the best thing for us, giving us nothing. Giving us nothing. So Kamala Persad-Bissessar must be the only choice.
They keep on blaming Kamala for what she have never done. I cannot understand what is really going on. They keep on blaming Kamala for what she have never done. I cannot understand what is really going on. Our road need fixing, everything breaking down. How could she be blamed when she was not wrong? Hello,
Rowley must go. Rowley must go.
This is massive
go.
outside.
Rowley
Wicked
must
and wild. Why do?
We fucking up.
What they do?
We fucking up.
Why do?
We fucking up.
What they do?
We fucking up.
Rowley, you fuck up Trinbago, you fuck it up, 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 you fuck it up. Rowley, you fuck up Trinbago, you fuck it up, 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 you fuck it up. From Citrus to Mayaro, you fuck up Trinbago. From Sango to Tobago, you fuck up Trinbago. Rowley, you fuck up Trinbago, you fuck it up, you fuck it up, you fuck. Mr. Kawe, why should everybody support you as the next political leader of the PNM and by extension the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago? Hold on, boss, hold on. You could talk English?
Yes. Everything is being Kamala. The PM is not doing nothing for this country. All your schools not completed. Look at the potholes. Look at crime situation. Vote for me, Kawe, for a better country.
This is a song about a man named Kawe from way down in South. This fella called Kawe from way down in South. Kawe is a fella the people talking about. Now he joined the PNM, they love him all the way. But all them in the PNM supporting Kawe. Rowley for Kawe, Dimmer for Kawe, Struck for Kawe, Fire for Kawe. Listen what I say, the whole of the PNM for Kawe, for Kawe, for Kawe. Yes, for Kawe. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Hey.
Yes, Rowley, and all of you for Kawe, for Kawe, only for Kawe, all of you.
Kawe is the real man. Kawe have a plan with foresight and vision to uplift the nation. Everybody calling him by name, and all them in the PNM riding him for fame. Camille for Kawe, Paula for Kawe, Shafa for Kawe, Marlene for Kawe. Listen to what I say, the whole PNM women league for Kawe, for Kawe, for Kawe. Yes, for Kawe. Oh, yo, yo, yo.
As I indicated, the economy is turning around.
Let's get up to some serious business now. This is what they told us at one time.
As I indicated, the economy is turning around.
They told us all of that. Today, 2 days ago, or 1 day ago, a state of emergency. A state of emergency that Rowley said never would the PNM impose. And it is not good to address crime. We will deal with that. A fellow who told us that he will never implement property tax. A fellow who told us that he will not, or put another way, the people should be glad that he in touch pension and of course welfare delivery services that has become part and parcel of what is called the welfare state developed by the United Kingdom and accepted across the globe, particularly in democratic and of course economies such as ours. But he is telling you that you should be glad that he still have that there. That is not an entitlement. That is on his behest. But let's go to the lines. Let's go to the lines immediately. A pleasant good night, welcome, and of course, all the best for tomorrow, next year. A pleasant good night.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Teacher Lennox.
Yes, good evening to you as well.
Yeah, Black Chinese here, Teacher Lennox. I don't know. Maybe it's me, or I don't know if the rest of the country probably in the same state of confusion that I am in.
Go ahead.
So maybe you can help explain it for me. How would you have a state of emergency and not have a curfew? And things going about like normal, and you're saying you're giving the police and the army extra powers to do what exactly?
Well, just stay on the line. Just stay on the line, and of course, we probably could resolve this confusion that you may have. First and foremost,
yes, please. Yes, please.
It was about attempting to do something different to Kamala Prasad Bisesa. That's the first thing. To gain some political, let's say, currency. But the fact is that you have implemented a state of emergency. So a state of emergency is a state of emergency. It doesn't matter whether there is, of course, a curfew attached to it or not, because you can have a state of emergency without a curfew. But for the PNM, they are attempting, of course, to burn the candle at both ends. They want, of course, the state of emergency because they cannot deal with the crime situation for a very long time. Kamala Prasad Bisesa told them, of course, to call a state of emergency since January, the 16th of January this year. Look how many people died. So blood is on their hands. But they found themselves in a situation. They found themselves in a situation where outside of the Besson Street police station, a significant player in the underworld, in the gang, was killed, or a soldier of theirs. And therefore, of course, the reprisal was 5 deaths in Laventil, Pisgalan. And that, of course, the police, I know that. Everybody in East Port of Spain will know that, of course, that there will be, of course,
reprisal for the 5.
Yeah. You will have, of course, a avalanche. So what has happened? They don't want the murder rate to reach as far maybe as 700. You see? So what they did, they quickly, as a knee-jerk response, and of course frightened that it will reach 700 before the year finishes, which of course they only had 2
before
or 3 days
the year
then.
done.
Yeah, they call a state of emergency of that nature. I want to tell you, things are happening, but only in the PNM constituencies where the police have identified as, of course, as hotspots, crime hotspots, and where the gangs are. But I want to tell you as well that this is just a superfluous, and a temporary plaster. Because why I'm saying that? They're going to hold them, like what they would do for Carnival, hold them, but they have no evidence. The fellas didn't do nothing. And afterwards, when the new year turns, they will let them go, because, of course, at least the PNM could now say the numbers didn't reach 700. That is what this is all about. Has nothing to do with anything else. And that is why I'm so vociferous and so insistent that they get the hell out of office now, because nothing they do can, of course, materialize in the way that they say. They ain't commit no damn crime with that form of state of emergency, as Kamala did early in her game when she, of course, got the opportunity to be prime minister. The next year, less than 2 years, she implemented a state of emergency, and as a result, you see, of course, for that whole 5 years or the subsequent years, things just was not as bad as this fella
as it
who
was
has
before.
3 records for the most murders in Trinidad and Tobago consecutively. This man should be brought before the International Criminal Court for what he has done to Trinidad and Tobago. But go ahead. I just thought I would keep you on the line to explain to you. But
yes, it has to be that has to be the main and number one reason why you will call a state of emergency without a curfew.
At this time.
And hunting season is still open.
Yeah, hunting season is still open.
Come on now. Hunting season still open until February or so. So it has some separate bubble or something that the wild beasts and the hunters and thing with guns and
all kinds of things could happen out there. These fellas could die.
Come on.
But the police, of course, making some kind of casual, of course,
So why
maybe
you would?
investigation.
Well, that is
And
the
these
same
people
thing.
could die.
Well,
Yeah.
that is why I say, well, let me call you and see if you could help me
Yeah, these people
understand.
could get
Because
killed.
how we could have hunting
Because
season
remember, it's a
open,
state of
hunting
emergency,
season open, and I saw it.
they don't have to account for whosoever they kill and who they arrest and
Yeah.
who didn't get
And I cannot
arrest. Yes.
do what they want when they want and how they want.
That's
kind of
right.
thing.
That is what he has done. Unleash the most pernicious force that any government could unleash, and that is to say, by
Yeah,
virtue
man, you're
of a
taking
state
away
of
the rights of the
emergency.
rest of the citizenry.
Yeah.
You're taking away the rights. You're taking away our constitutional rights and the rest of citizens. For the few people all about, how it's just a few. When it's not just a few, when it's all you on the top there in the damn strip and it's in the first place.
Billions of dollars at their disposal, spending willy-nilly helter-skelter, giving us a big set
Correct.
of talk, how they know
You're doing
how
it.
to do this and how to do that. And at the end of the day, they have collapsed and they don't want to still get out of our faces. Well, we will force
Yeah,
them
it's
out.
just a safe space. It has to be that. It has to be that. That's a safe space so that we're not close to 700 people. Because
right.
the number that CNC3 is carrying, that is not the correct amount of people that has been murdered in this country.
And then telling us that the businessmen wouldn't be affected. You know, a ship came with the tourists, and
yeah.
the captain tell them don't come off the vessel. You know that ships
Well,
coming
that
to
will have to
Trinidad
happen.
to deliver food. I'm sure their principals, the owners of these crafts, are telling their crew, listen, don't go Trinidad, and if you go Trinidad, be careful because they have a state of emergency. That is what he has done.
Yeah, people
I'm
would
telling us
avoid.
that.
People would avoid coming here.
I'm showing you
Would
that.
avoid coming here.
Yeah.
That would be bad for tourism.
I
Who wants
spoke
to come
today
here? If you
to-
live in the cold, you live in the cold or in the temperate countries because it's winter now.
That's
you
right.
want to leave there and come down here. You would not come to Trinidad and Tobago.
What's up?
Absolutely not.
Well, let me give you a practical example. I spoke to a regular subscriber to this program. In fact, he was telling me that he is coming next week, and he will be bringing, of course, some equipment for me, computers, etc.,
Right.
so we can enhance the program. You
That's
tell me,
nice. Yes,
He
yes.
says he's looking, of
He
course,
changed your
to
mind.
cancel
You
his
see?
ticket. But
Oh
Rowley are
my
there
God.
telling us that business would not be affected. And cancel that ticket, that is one man. But it also means that if they come in either by car, our
Airline,
airline,
official
yes,
national
or
airline.
another airline, well, once he arrives here, he must spend money, and he come in with US money. And that is what Rowley
Correct.
and they have, of course, only because them want
well,
them want to look good.
if he is
and
one
save
man who's doing that.
700 deaths. Come at
But
the end of the year,
Mr. Lennox, if
700
one
deaths.
man, if he's just one man who's doing that, you think the majority of other people who was
That's
thinking
right.
of doing the same thing
That's
wouldn't
just
change
a
their mind?
microcosm of
There
what
goes
the
the
reality
US.
is. Yes, that's right. That's right.
There goes the US. So I and all would change my mind if I was thinking of coming here
Of
for the
course.
Christmas or into the
Once
New
you
Year's,
hear
whatever
state
it
of
is.
emergency,
Or if
whichever
I'm coming,
public
I'm not coming and
spaces
staying as
will not be
long
affected
as
and
I
all
would
of
have planned before.
That's right.
So what economy, what madness is he talking about? It wouldn't affect the economy. I don't understand that.
They always
That
say
makes
things
no sense
that
again.
sounds nice, and at the end of the day, it's danger. It is called, of course, the Cobra effect. Cobra effect. And I think I should tell you the story about the Cobra effect. The British, when they were ruling India, wanted to get rid of the cobra snakes there. So they decided to
Yes.
give people money for every snake that they bring in that they caught. Well, when the
Yeah,
snakes are then
I
run
think
out,
I know this.
when the snakes
I
run
know this
out,
one.
they start to mine snakes. They start to have cobra farms. And they pretended
Yes,
upon
I
to
would-
catch it and
But
giving them it. And when the when the British realized what they was doing, because they were mining the snakes and then
Yeah,
bringing it to
against
them and
scam.
say they catch it and getting the money. You know what? You know what they do? They stop paying them for the snakes. And guess what? They let go all the snakes that they mine in the society. They let go all so that the
my
thing they tried to avoid, it became worse.
Yes, that's
because
exactly
all the
what will
farm
happen.
snakes was now going all over the place and
Now
doing
in
what they do
now
best,
free
looking
to
for
go
people.
all
Yeah,
over.
But
Oh
that's
my
Rowley and them.
God.
Always telling you something nice. You hear Imber just now? The economy has turned around. Turn around.
Oh my God.
Foreign
I
exchange
can't
is
stomach.
not a
I
problem,
can't stomach it.
but you can't
I
get
can't stomach none of them.
yeah,
But
you
he's
can't
one
get
of them who
$10
have been
in foreign exchange
extremely.
in the bank.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. It makes
Telling
no
you,
sense
they
at
should be
all.
getting out
And
of
then
office.
seeing that there's no curfew to put the icing on top of the cake. We're still going to celebrate the New Year's and fireworks have been selling. So how you could tell the difference between a fireworks and a gunshot? Is it that
Well
nobody
said,
was
my
murdered
friend. Go
last
to the
night?
top of the class. Go to the top of the
Nobody
class.
was murdered
Your
last night
common
then.
sense
We
must
didn't have
be
any murders
applied
last
there.
night.
Yeah.
Is it that? No murders were recorded last night? So we stop at what, 6:20 something? Which means,
and the
well, the
same-
real number is about 6:45.
The same morning they was
That's
talking about it, announcing the state of emergency. Rowley, the coward, said, "Gone and hide. He don't want to face us."
Yeah.
There was a murder in Paradise Heights about
yeah.
2 hours after.
So-
Pile of jokers,
so-
get the hell out of office. That only collecting money, our money by false pretense. That's fraud.
Correct.
Fraud.
And the thing about, to
Can't
see
do
the
the
two
job.
of them and to see Stuart Young and Hines sit down there in this press conference, the head of national security and the head of this country, not here, the president and all, you haven't seen her face, you haven't heard from her in the news in a
but
very long time. These
according to
people
them-
are really, really quiet, and you have the state of this
Yeah.
country is in a hot mess. We're in a latrine. That's where we are, because anytime you look around, you could still see the mess that we're in.
I'm glad you
We're
say
still
latrine
living in it. You
because
can
I
still
have a
smell it.
latrine-
You're
I have a
existing in it.
latrine video there. I better play it one time as you talk about latrine. Yeah,
It's nonsense. You could have fireworks blasting tonight, New Year's into the thing, and you talking about state of emergency. How much sense does that make? It does not make any sense. And you would have had the country in a state where crime would have taken over. That is the point. You all did not see to expand the economy in any way. And in order to hide your shortcomings and all your corruption in Petrotrin, all your close down that, we have no foreign exchange. You all have not been exporting anything. Trinidad is not selling anything to make any money. So we're just stuck here. The few exports that's going out is private companies who have a monopoly on certain things, and then there's a certain
we
part
are
of the
in a
population
quagmire.
that this does not affect at all.
Yes, we are in a
So
quagmire.
what are you doing with spinning top in mud? Time to come out from there. From day one, you had no plan. You had no idea what you all were doing in the first place. You just want to get in there so that all the people will take what they wanted to take. Cream off the top of this country.
The murder to date is 644. 644.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
644.
Yeah.
So it's just to save face that we have not reached closer to 700. That's why you're called state of emergency, but it's not going to do anything.
Oh yes, of course.
It will not do anything.
Sorry. And the article is saying now, I'm reading it now. Attorney at law, 43-year-old Randall Hector was shot while walking to his car at Stanmore Avenue, Port of Spain, and was taken to the Port of Spain General Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. So in other words, he died. He was once a legal advisor to somebody, to of course the SSA, the Strategic Services agency that Rowley was plotting, of course,
was trying to overtake the government.
His government, yeah. But of course, them suing him now for improper dismissal. Imagine that. Rowley came to us, tell us that the SSA is plotting, and he bring down somebody, an ambassador to take over. Fire the people of them. And now, today, the same people who he say was plotting and had all kinds of guns and so on, they have now decided and are pursuing, of course, legal action against them for false, or should I say bad dismissal, inappropriate dismissal, wrongful dismissal. I mean, come on. What more disaster you want to see people? We cannot celebrate New Year's. No.
Exactly.
We cannot.
Correct.
We have a mission. It's to get rid of those who are
Exactly. We have to
extended
drive them to
Ebenezer
see if we can get
Scrooge.
them to call a general election as
That's
soon as
right.
possible.
That is what they should be calling. Thank you very much, of
We
course,
have to
for your
make it
intervention.
so uncomfortable for this nonsense and stop taking all this nonsense we've been taking. It's
Yes.
exactly what you said on the ground report, what Mikey said on the ground report this morning, what Andy said on the ground report this morning.
Yes.
We have sat here in this country and taken a lot of nonsense, a lot
That's
of
right.
crap, a
That's
lot of
right. That's right.
ridiculousness, things
From
that we would
evil
not have let the
people.
people partnership get away with. They have
Evil
gotten
and
away with and
greedy.
more. They literally
they're
have
not
gotten away
pilferers,
with
they are
murder.
total thieves. I want us to respect them. No respect for them. Rowley is a blasted
None
rapist and a
whatsoever.
pedophile, a conman, and of course a criminal, the bearer of death. Bearer of
Correct.
death. All of you.
Time for them
All
to
right, my
come
friend.
out. Time
Have a
for them
wonderful
to come
one. Have
out.
a wonderful one. There are other people who want to
You
come.
too.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, no problem.
I say hello to your family as well. Yes, indeed. Young people are talking out beautiful. I love that. I love that. And you see, we would not have gotten an opportunity for Rowley and they, because when we formed the pushback, they jailed us, they tear gassed us. But tenaciousness, creativity, will, purpose, and sustainable, unrelenting defending of the people will get us to heaven. And of course, at the same time, these people who are evil will certainly be hellbound. Let me just take this call here. A pleasant good night, welcome.
Lennox, good
just
night,
hold on.
Daniel.
I have two
All
of you
the
now
guests
on the
coming
system.
in.
The system
I
working
hope you
through
and
it
your
now.
family safe.
So
I hope you and your family
this call,
safe.
hold on this caller. Let me get the one on the system, all right? If you could hold on. All right, go ahead quickly. Oh boy, let me see which one. All right.
Which one?
Kelvin.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelvin, quickly, because I have another person on the handset.
All right. Good night, and I wish everybody a safe coming into the new year. And I was really going to call you and tell you about the no bullet on a lawyer in Tongue.
Yes. In a state of emergency.
In a
called by
state of-
Rowley
a
and
sta- Well, I just call this a state of dunciness.
Yeah, and it's superior to Kamala Prasad business. I had the audacity to mention that woman in the mouth now. The mouth should be flushed out, not with disinfectant, but with acid. For calling
And
her
so
name, because they have no locus standi, they have no moral and ethical pillar on which to stand, because they are the bearers of death and destruction for Trinidad and Tobago. A bunch of nincompoops. Go ahead, my friend, quickly.
Lennox,
yes.
Do you think when Young go on the TV and talking all these kind of words where he say he's a lawyer and thing, you think he does be understanding half of what he does be saying?
I don't think so. I think he does talk thing where he hear. A person who does not know and does not know he does not know. I mean, it's a total backside, far less for a person who does not know and know that he does not know. Go ahead.
Lennox, and things so bad. A Duncy head one had to pick up our next Duncy head one, during the interview,
Yeah, it's Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber, tell you, yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, let's get this caller on the handset now. A pleasant good night, welcome.
Good night, Mr. Smith.
Yes, good night, my friend.
And your viewers tonight.
Yes.
Well, I am quite confused about something, Our neighbors in Venezuela, they are on a wanted list for narco trafficking.
Yes.
Narco traffickers deal in United States currency. And that is why they're under the radar of the United States government.
Yeah.
You follow?
Yes.
Who outside of Venezuela would be laundering money for that regime?
Yes.
Isn't that something that we need to solve, because that money has to be laundered,
Yeah.
And who would be, well, I would say now, foolish enough to put themselves in that position, but they would have to be in a very good position to be able to pass that through the financial legal system.
Yeah.
So we don't need. So if we connect the dots, do we really need a petrotrim?
I hear you.
Huh?
I hear you.
Do we really need a petrotrim? Because we're not earning foreign exchange. If you amass all the outside all the exports that we're supposed to be exporting, what we selling? Chubby? What we exporting? Carrot? I don't know. Tell me, are we exporting what? Jeera? Curry? What? I don't know. So we're certainly not exporting refined products.
That's right.
So how are we earning foreign exchange when the government in charge swears that they have not been touching the Heritage and Stabilization Fund without our knowledge? So that money is secure. So where is the foreign exchange coming from?
Well, let me tell you this, and that is why I'm warning our young people. It is coming from, in addition, of course, to what you have suspected, but it's coming from borrowings, and then, of course, yes, reducing, of course, our reserves. They met it at 10 billion. It is now somewhere vacillating around 4 billion US.
Yes.
And of course, not pilfering, but putting their evil, greedy, incompetent, and what I consider to be thief in hands into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. That is where it is coming from. Apart from the sale of assets, having a fire sale to, of course, their 1%ers and those institutional investors that are anyway owned by the government.
Yeah.
That is how they have managed the country over the last 9 years, and of course entering this 10th one. And I want to tell you this as well, that they have dried up foreign direct investment into Trinidad and Tobago. They could blame COVID as they want, but before COVID, that is what was happening, because they told us that in 2019 the economy has turned around. And why that was so? Why they say that? Because of the investment made by Kamala Prasad Bisesa around 2013-14, when, of course, they struck deal with upstreamers, the people who would search and, of course, use their own money for discovering oil and bringing it to market, monetizing it, and we get some kind, and they get an incentive. Rowley and they were, of course, castigating Kamala. The incentive was bad, and he went up, of course, to Texas and in the boardroom, and he's the best salesman for Trinidad and Tobago. And sometime after, not only NGC bust twice, but of course, some 12 companies left Point Lisa because of the high gas price that Rowley went and negotiated, so he say, in the United States, in the boardrooms and boasting. I mean, the man is a walking disaster.
Yeah, because think about it, and based on the conversation we're currently having, Mr. Smith.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Based on the conversation we're currently having, we must reference now the tragedy of the 4 divers in the pipeline who died servicing a defunct pipeline, a pipeline that was actually decommissioned. Decommissioned,
yes. Why it is. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we had to go, if we're talking decommissioning and mothballing, then we have to, apart from the oil refinery, that was, of course, mothballed for attempting to subvert the course of criminal justice by the entire cabinet to save Rowley from, of course, his involvement in the fake oil matter. You have, of course, Train 1, that some $400 million was invested, and he's telling us that he do that in order to get some shares in Train 2 and 3, I believe it, yes, 2 and 3, and somehow making the nexus when in fact that could have been an easy negotiations, just as how he could have easily renegotiated the 850 million bullet payment. He could have easily done that and save, of course, Petrotrin and the oil refinery. He didn't do that, but after he mashed it up and destroy our ability to earn foreign exchange in diverse ways, he went and do the same negotiation. This wicked, evil, diabolical, nasty criminal.
Now that we have become we have gone from the wealthiest nation in the Western Hemisphere to mendicants, because
mendicant, a beautiful term, and I like that term, mendicant. Yes, he has pauperized us. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. And they seem hell bent. I don't know if at the end of the day these people have really gone mad. They were always like that. I mean, if we look at how they started with email gate and people still buying into stupidness like that, it tells me that we still in the days of Bear Rabbit and Anansi and all that nonsense,
Yes.
That is the kind of stories that he does go on.
Caller, just hold on. I'm completing, of course, somebody on the handset here. So just hold on. Just bear with us. Go ahead.
Hello, good night.
Yes. So yes. He is reciting those old Nancy
Hello?
stories and all of them.
Just hold on, caller. I have somebody on the handset, so just hold on, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So that's the nonsense we're dealing with, and really the country is it is latrine.
Yes, latrine, and that the young girl that gave me the idea to put a latrine and them fellas either emerging from or entering, because it's a cesspool of asses that we have, of course, clearly put in office that are undeserving.
No, they're despots. All of them.
Yeah. Well, there's a term that a friend to the program likes to use. I think I'll use a little more kakistocracy, government by persons who, of course, have been unprepared and worse to govern. The worst to govern, kakistocracy. Of course, I like to use, of course, kleptocracy, government by thieves.
We have gone back to the days of people like Eric Gary and Forbes Burnham.
I'm telling you that, that's what the man has done.
They take us back 60 years.
That's what he has done.
Forbes Burnham and
total
Eric
dictator, total autocratic, and thiefing, All that because he wanted thief, You will hear what transpires when he's out of office, and blue lights and silver bracelet must inevitably, of course, attract their attention, or will be attracted to them.
But shouldn't the authorities be using this particular opportunity to go raid their houses and raid their computers and take their cell phone?
They should under normal circumstances, but they have selected, of course, their team to be president, to be commissioner of police, to, of course, condone evil and criminal behavior in high places, only because they want to get 30 pieces of silver to betray the rest of us.
I recall the lie that was Emailgate, which was announced in Parliament. And by the time the session was over, they had already seized the Attorney General laptop, his computer, his cell phone, search the house. The Prime Minister had to surrender her things. All the ministers whose name was called in that lie.
Yeah, well, I want to slightly interject that it is about the moral and ethical and character of the players. Kamala, the Attorney General then, and Abraham Logan, they volunteered to give up. But Rowley and they will not do that because they know.
It was an investigation. They didn't just simply the police started to investigate the allegations.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is that they was in a position like Rowley to, of course, manipulate the system, but they didn't do it. They subjected themselves as a true, what I consider to be citizens of this country, that would be subjected to such investigations and, of course, to conform to those principles. But Rowley, not Rowley, they believe that they are above the law and that they could steal. Look at Balize House. Look at Balize House. Where you get that money from? After claiming that they were owing not one, not two, but $5 million they were owing when he inherited that position of leader. And look, they're billing something for over $100 million. Are you telling me that blue lights and silver bracelet is not inevitable among them?
It has to be. Maybe we should be in the business of selling after tickets. The rest of the world.
Yes, all right. Well, let me go. I see the caller still waiting there. So,
all right.
Okay, then. Thanks. Yes, thanks very much, man. Yes. And and all the best in spite of my earlier position. Yes, indeed. Go ahead, caller. Thanks very much for holding on.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you.
Miss Valson here. I was calling just to wish
all
you
the best,
Happy New Year to you and your family and all the listeners.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying health, so I don't call, but I'm listening.
All right. I was now saying that if I was close to you, I'll give you a kiss on the cheek.
Behave. I Cinderella.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What you need to highlight, Mr. Lennox, he say he going to Bago, he brother dead, and he was in a party drunk, he hold a big party. You need to bring up that. But the devil working now on him.
Well, the media had asked the question, which was the obvious question, but the man is so reckless,
Akasamaru was very well, very
irresponsible, so reckless.
Yes.
Because the truth will always come out, and we know what the truth is.
We had the post-cabinet meeting, and who is the people? Pim and Pim.
Yes, but the opposition leader, I think, was up to it when she said, is political gimmickry. Because if it was serious enough, he would have been at front as how, but especially when it is something evil, he's always up front. So when it was
he always wanted to Bago, and he say if you see how he drunk, they showed the video where he drunk, and then he called the cabinet and say a state of emergency.
Yeah, that is how he put. That is how them running government have been running government.
And look, he put the two people, a panty shield and a Pampers.
That is their parlor.
Right?
The government, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the country, is their parlor, yeah.
So, Mr. Lennox, I'm going to make it very short. I just want to wish you, your family, all the listeners, a happy New Year and be safe.
Thank you very much.
And a special happy New Year for that girlfriend in Santa Cruz Day.
Yes, Miss our external correspondent, Miss Santa Cruz.
Of course, she is brilliant.
Yes.
She's second Kamala.
I hear you.
All right. Okay? And listen to me. When it hit 2025 come, we need to hold the 22 or 21 of them and shake them on by the head, and you go see all the money gone.
Of course. That is
all the money gone.
And silver bracelets is
right, and I just want you to reach home safe.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And have a bright and prosperous New Year, you and your family and the listeners.
Yes.
And the next thing you know for the New Year, you know what to change.
Huh?
You know what for the New Year you have to change.
What's that? Tell me.
You see the ground report with Andy. Oh God. Good morning to this one. Good morning to take a whole hour. Say good morning to all the listeners on Trinidad and Tobago. No truth. You listen. Good morning to Anna. Good morning to
Dick. He has given us for that is that he billion views.
No. He needs to. He take up 3/4 of the time.
All right, I will convey that. I don't know if it will have any impact.
Right, and happy New Year to him too. Oh
yes,
God.
Okay, yes. All right. Thanks.
Reach home safe. Yes.
Yes, indeed, people. Of course, the latrine cesspool of incompetence and impotence. But let's go straight, of course, to what they of course convey to us that to suggest that they are competent, all of which was an illusion, lie, and of course part of their propaganda machinery. They're simply toxic people who clearly have gone awry
as I
and gone
indicated,
mad.
the economy is turning around. In fact, Madam Speaker, it has turned around.
Disaster after disaster.
Revenue collection is up, Madam Speaker. The non-oil sector is growing, Madam Speaker. The energy sector is booming, Madam Speaker. And we reach a point as a country where we're into a zone now where we just can't continue to borrow money to finance what is called recurrent expenditure.
Disaster after disaster.
Recurrent expenditure. It's not productive sector. It's not capital expenditure. It doesn't create or stimulate economic activity per se. So that the point I am making is that right now we're struggling simply to pay current wages and salaries. That's the point I'm making.
Mad like hell. What a disaster after disaster since it's gone. Even nature is against us. Look at what is happening in the background. So I should make the nexus so that you will have a clear conceptual idea as to what is development as far as the PNM is concerned in this, of course, review. But of course, we go beyond 2024 because there's always cause and effect. And there must be, of course, something that created another thing in human experience and circumstance. That being as it may, let us, of course, we cannot, of course, hide the fact that we need to address this specific situation of the state.
Joining us to discuss the state of emergency is opposition leader
here, Rowley, when he was, of course, opposition leader, being interviewed when Kamala Prasad Bisesa introduced the state of emergency in 2011. But let's go to the line. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox, and all the listeners and supporters of the corridor transformation. And share, feel free to share the live. So, Uncle Lennox, I will be very bad not to say, may God bless you and give you good health and strength and your family to keep the fight. So because now is the day upon us and we need all hands on deck and all the strength to go forward. So may God give you the strength like Moses and Jeremiah so that you can stand the fire and you can lead your people out of bondage. So Mr. Lennox, may God richly bless you, richly bless you and your family in all kindness and goodness and good health and strength in the coming year. So when I don't say that now, Mr. Lennox, you see now what Mad Oreo is doing? Mad Oreo, we had a discussion that he will come with some diversions and tactics to mislead the nation. We know the federal was won, and now he bring five murder in Lavantil. But in Arima, the 5 children, and when did they get licked up? So we know what is the agenda, the hidden agenda behind that. So I want to ask, as we wait for midnight to say 2025, I would like to ask and to keep this on the front burner, my year in review contribution. The EBC have an exercise to finish, which is very important for us, the people. How it is that SOE going to affect or help the EBC get that exercise finished? You understand, Mr. Lennox?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So,
well, there's another factor, a variable that you may have, I know, inadvertently overlooked, and that is to say, the EBC is complaining that the 10 million that was allocated for them in the budget, they have not received anything. So even that will, of course, emasculate or curtail whether or not that exercise will be completely done. so there are 2 or 3 factors or 3 moving parts that are affecting that position. But go ahead, I hear you.
Yeah, so no, they have it on record that they give them money.
Right.
But the EBC on record saying they didn't receive no money.
That's right.
Just like the clip you just played 2 minutes before you answered the phone. Madam Speaker, the energy sector is booming. Energy, and we are turning around the economy. But Leher is saying that the oil pressure is low. Captain, we're sinking fast. We don't know what to do. Leher singing that song,
That's
right now, we have no revenue, revenue drop.
Yes, that's the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. But they will give you some kind of illusion.
So all the
deceptive
listeners,
as it is,
so before I take the earliest thing and see God spare life in the new year, I would like to tell the senior citizens, I would like to call on them again once more. To all the grannies and grandpa, Nana and Aji, here what's going on. While all go to bed tonight, remember Keith Rowley, they slipped the tongue and came out in the open that they want to reduce all the pension, and all can hardly make it, some of you all, with the 3,000 and the new qualifiers for the pension. We don't know how it's going. So while the SOE is going on, try and see senior citizen organize all yourself, right? So have a pleasant good night, Mr. Lennox, and I would like to wish all the listeners and all the supporters a bright and prosperous new year. A pleasant good evening.
Thank you very much, and same to you, yours, and of course your entire family and your neighborhood as well. And may you be safe. Of course, let's get back, of course, to what Rowley was saying, of course, during the course of the period when he was opposition leader, saying, of course, that he was appalled. He was, of course, against the methodology of the utilization of SOE to address crime in Trinidad and Tobago when you have a very robust, of course, police service. I wonder if the police service under him is no longer robust. But I thought he was saying it was extremely robust and they had control of the matter a couple of months ago. I suppose in his, of course, what I consider to be chameleon role, or put another way, is metamorphosis that he keeps, of course, changing from time to time, no different to all of the policies that are major to Trinidad and Tobago. He has done, whether, of course, it be Petrotrin, whether it be, of course, the fake oil matter, whether it be, of course, the police service shortlist, and, of course, the almost impeachment that resulted in almost the impeachment of the sitting president, Paula May Weeks, but certainly the resignation of the entire, of course, police service commission at that point. The man is totally toxic. The man is evil. The man is diabolical. The man, of course, is a political kobo of course, and will not, of course, rest until he picks every single dead flesh in whatever carcass that might have come his way, as we have seen in politics. He must be jettisoned. But let's hear him then.
Joining us to discuss the state of emergency is opposition leader Dr. Keith Rowley.
All we are saying, we question the option the government chose to respond. We are never saying that the government shouldn't respond. We are not saying that the government shouldn't fight crime vigorously. What we have been engaging is the option. And we have a duty to let the government explain to the country the nature of the option, the choice of the option, and the effect of the option. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has declared a state of emergency to inconvenience the vast majority of law-abiding citizens as we are in this country, because the minister himself said it's only 0.003% involved in crime. A state of emergency to deal with a gang, and this sovereign state, this independent state with a serious national security machinery end up with a state of emergency.
Well, of course, listen to him recently as Prime Minister. Listen to him.
the government has been looking at all options all along the way, and we do not believe that a state of emergency is something that is our best option at this time, because there are a number of downsides to it, not the least of which we would want to do nothing to disrupt the economic recovery that we have been working towards and hoping to experience more going forward. You see, all of us are exposed to the criminal element. But if all of us spend all our time on that.
I want you to notice his body language. And because he is Prime Minister or a total dunderhead or suffering from what I consider to be inferiority complex, or it could be a perverse superiority complex. Perverse meaning that it ain't real, because he really and truly suffers from an inferiority complex, because he's the first man I know, every time you talk to him as Prime Minister, he has to remind himself, he has to pinch himself that he's Prime Minister. You don't do that. If you are, you are. And if you have the quality, there's no need to regurgitate. There's no need to be repetitive. And so the body language, and notice not only him, you'll see Hines, you'll see Stuart Young, all of them. They speak as though they know, and it could be a piece of paper somebody just passed to them. And of course, they say that a person who does not know and believes that somehow he knows is extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. And that is how these fellas, to me, operates. And I want to invite you to make similar observations. And you can, of course, call in and let us know if you have a different view or you have observed others, because I do not, of course, take the position that I am the repository of all information and observation indeed. But what's his body language? And of course, his facial expression, an air of authority, almost, but not almost, arrogance, contempt, and stereotypical of a narcissist, one who loves themselves, and nobody else, of course, must be able, of course, to challenge them. The only person I see have challenged him successfully is Robert Amar. When he, Rowley, was made to know that the former, under PNM administration, Minister of Finance was part of the team, Wendell Motley was part of the team that he put together to deal with sandals. And when, of course, he realized that he was wrong after telling Amar to throw away that paper, put it away, I am the head, he had to apologize in the night to Amar that he was wrong. That's the only man I know that have made him account, and he was made to account and accounted for his rambunctious arrogance and, of course, a total blatant disrespect for people's opinion. But we'll go to the line first. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
This is San Fernando.
Hey, hi, Mr. Simon. And all the best to you and yours.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Good.
And to all the listeners and everybody.
Yes.
Play that tape again, please, because I wonder if I hear correctly. What Rowley was saying is that he working on what? Economic recovery?
Yes. He was, it will affect, he working on economic recovery, and therefore no state of emergency should be, of course, be implemented by his government. And of course, he was saying that in the context of the recent coming out of COVID. But I wonder if we are still coming out of COVID, or we are no longer subjected to the effects of COVID. I wonder, because of course he just called a state of emergency just 2 days ago or a day ago.
how is that? I wonder. I mean, it has me confused because
the man is a backside and a half. So much so that he recognized the inferiority complex that he is engulfed in, that saturate his soul, his body, his mind. That
so where's the
he failed to
recovery?
face the people to tell them such devastating news. It's a state of emergency, suspending of people's rights. And the Prime Minister leave it to two buffoons.
All right. Okay. Well, the talk on economic recovery that I'm baffled because I don't
All right, I'll play it over just for you.
That was baffled.
Yeah.
But the next thing is,
go ahead.
What is question here? What is the purpose of a state of emergency?
The state of emergency is to address and to apply, of course, some very focused resources, consequential of a specific problem that threatens the state. Most important, it must threaten the state for you to, of course, go as far as to, of course, implement a state of emergency. Why? Because fundamental rights, your right to move, your right to talk, your right to of course, be employed and not be, of course, interfered with by the police and so on. And of course, on the other hand, giving the police, of course, all rights to infringe all of that.
But I want to interject here. Once a state of emergency is called,
yes,
it is called really, I mean, this is my view. Other people might see it differently.
Go ahead.
It is called to gather information. Not so?
Not necessarily. No, but to act. They would have had the information already.
No, if you call it,
gather.
If you call it, you're looking for something because
no, you're looking to do something, not looking for something. You're looking to do something. Because they know already gangs are. In this case, for example, they know already gangs are. So all down here on George Street and so on, they were here early this morning, and little girls and so on. I see, of course, women police taking them and crying them because the police can now hold them for a certain period. Of course, there is this tribunal that has to be put in place for people to appeal, and of course, the police can hold them, but without any should I say accountability or judicial or legal ramifications for the police. In other words, you can't sue them because there's a state of emergency. Yeah.
No. Where I'm going with this is that the PNM call this state of emergency after the fact.
Yeah.
After the fact, because when you look at it, right, why I'm saying it is supposed to gather information. How come you didn't call a state of emergency 8 years ago or 7 years ago? Because if you call it then, you will have been looking for information as to where certain things are. And when you get the information, then you can be able now to say, let me govern the country in a particular way.
Well, all right, you could weave that into it, yes. But in this case, they would have already had the information. You know, the fella was shot outside Besson Street. There was 5 murders, consequential. They know where all the gang leaders are, and as a consequence, they just go into these areas and give the police, of course, the power. But of course, at the end of the day, it's an exercise in futility, because at the end of the day, if you hold people without, of course, the evidence, it is just a matter of time before you let them back out on the streets. So it's an exercise. What I suspect is that he didn't want to hold the record of murders reaching 700.
700?
Yeah, in 2024. He preferred the excess to go on into 2025. So you can say you start afresh. So if it's 5 murders for January, it's only 5 murders for 2025. That's the kind of arseness that these people and them are engaging. Numbers to look good, when in fact they could never look good. And it's an exercise, of course, in spitting in the sky and falling in your face. It simply cannot work and will not work.
But it will never work. You see, okay, because it's not working because it's only disaster after disaster. That's why I say.
Yeah, they put the infrastructure for disaster after disaster, whether it's economic, whether it be agriculture, whether it be sports and culture, yeah, whether it be, of course, the what other ministries we have, whether it be in the area of community development, whether it be industry and commerce, and we can go on and whether it be housing. Yeah?
Well, then, yeah, could go on.
I mean, come on.
These people, they collapse in truth.
Everything, yeah, they have collapsed. And we must say it for what it is. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, under Keith Christopher Rowley, the boogeyman, has collapsed.
Yeah. So, you know, these are my few pointers here tonight. So,
thank you very much. So let me just get back there because I want to leave exactly at 10, and I see I only have 15 more minutes. But let me just play this.
The government has been looking at all options all along the way, and we do not believe that a state of emergency is something that is our best option at this time.
You understand why he didn't want to face the population, because the journalist had an obligation to ask him, well, when you say that, what is the situation now? And of course, we as a population will know that is consistent. He wasn't closing down Petrotrin, but he closed it down. It wasn't he who made the intervention with respect, of course, to that short list that prevented, of course, a former commissioner of police, who now, of course, head of NTA. He didn't know anything about it, and suddenly he knew. When, of course, Paula May Weeks would have taken some choice words in a stale, because she was being subjected, of course, to the astute measure taken by the opposition to initiate impeachment. She has to account as to her stewardship in not passing that document straight on to the parliament, but giving it back to Ms. Bliss Sipasa, the chairman, who clearly, on her own volition with Rowley, tried to, of course, prevent the former commissioner of police, Gary Griffith, from, of course, becoming the commissioner for a second term.
Because there are a number of downsides to it, not the least of which we would want to do nothing to disrupt the economic recovery that we have been working towards and hoping to experience more going forward. You see, all of us are exposed to the criminal element. But if all of us spend all our time on that, or let that be the be-all and end-all in this country, or we panic ourselves into making decisions as was made in 2011, then we would be doing ourselves an injustice. We believe that we can fight the criminals, we are fighting the criminals, and we can allow our economy to not be beaten down by the actions of the criminals, by making decisions like a state of emergency, which would not really get to the root cause of the criminality. Right? That's the government's position. So we are not advancing a state of emergency as our response to crime.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's not all, but what is the reality? The reality is that we have a situation where people have been killed, chopped, bruised, and let's take a look, or let's take an appreciation of some of them.
Rowley alone. Chairman, PM Rowley is the sole nominee for Diego West. Express News by Kim Boudram, December 9th, 2024. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Unless Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley declines the invitation, he remains the only candidate nominated by the PNM for the Diego Martin West constituency for the next general election. Chairman of the PNM's Diego Martin West constituency, Jacqueline Lazarus. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Unless Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley declines the invitation, he remains the only candidate nominated by the PNM for the Diego Martin West constituency for the next general election. Chairman of the PNM's Diego Martin West constituency.
Let me just turn this off. We get another technical issue here. Let me just go back to, right, let me see. All right. Hold on there. All right. Hold on there. Right, okay. Right. Let's go. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor. just now, I ain't hearing you. Right. Go ahead now. Yes.
You can hear me better
Yeah.
now?
No, much better. Caller, caller, you'll have to hold on. I have another caller on the handset. All right.
Yeah, man. No, hold on, man.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. We
Yeah.
have our Jamaican colleague that is on the other line. But go ahead, Miss Santa Cruz.
Good night, Lennox, again. Happy New Year to you and your family, and all the best for 2025.
Yes.
And I would also like to wish all my friends on the chat a Happy New Year. And, of course, to my friend, Miss Valsane. Miss Valsane, thank you so much for that compliment. Thank you, my dear. And, Lennox, I just sent you, I don't know if you heard it, or if you got it before, but I just sent you an article from Ian Allen, post that a lawyer
Yes,
that
I
was
mentioned it
formerly
earlier.
from
I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Okay, right.
Who died
Okay, so
to his sustained injuries, from his sustained injury. From a robbery or something like that. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, it's a lawyer was killed on Stanmore Avenue.
Yeah.
He went to collect his car. Yeah. He went to collect his car.
Yeah, I
and he
assume
was
it's a
killed.
robbery,
They
but
say
yes, I did mention it.
Oh, right. That's what. Well, you see, it has not stopped. Regardless of all the crap that they're talking and all the PNMIs talking.
And 2 hours
and such a
after,
crap,
somebody was killed as well in Paradise Heights in over there.
Right, you see?
So why is the
You
talking
see?
people killing?
But,
By pilot
that's
jokers.
right,
Yeah.
Lennox. And this bogus SOE. Imagine this man, Israel Khan, Wayne Sturge, and a whole barrage of lawyers. They're talking about this stupid, I say stupid, right? They didn't say stupid.
Yeah.
SOE. But you have the newly minted Miss Jumper, who was advising everybody to jump people wall. Like they make, she's a senior counsel now. She went after them.
They talk so hoax. They just spread, of course, rumor and bad news, and of course crippling the nation more, and of course carrying them further down the abyss. So we have to dismiss them. But go ahead.
But Lennox, the thing about it is, they believe that Rowley words are the Bible truth, but they know the man is a liar. The man is a consummate liar,
Yes.
right? You criticize the SOE under... Now, Lennox, as I said this morning, I now realize where these crayfish posse getting this from, that the SOE was meant to target black people, young, black, innocent angels, right?
Yeah.
And now they come with the same nonsense again, but I'm waiting to see, Lennox, I'm waiting to see when they start rounding them up now, because you know, Lennox, under SOE, once you have a warrant out for your arrest, you are going to be arrested.
Yes.
Whether we like it, you are going to be arrested. That's what that's law, whatever it is. You understand?
Yeah,
That
you
and I
are
learned
compelled
that
as
from-
police officers to, of course, obey the instructions of the court. Yeah.
Right. So now you're going to make you go waiting to hear how many angels this SOE is going to bring in, right? And Lennox, you know, when Mrs. Prasad Bishesa asked them to debate the COVID, they said no, it was merely mild. It was not important. They have more important things to discuss. The things say to take a jersey and make a mask. Don't use the mask. It can't come here. This. Look at what happened after. 5,000 plus people died from COVID. And then you have PNMIs coming to talk about how well Rowley handled COVID. I want to tell that PNMI here tonight.
Yeah, go ahead.
We handled it, not Rowley. So catch your damn self. Rowley and them didn't know what the
I
hell
don't
they
know
was
where
doing.
they will get off, boy. They remind me of toddlers who has a fixation to, of course, touch a hot cup of tea, and no matter what you tell the child, they are going, of course, after that hot cup of tea until eventually it falls on them, and of course the consequences, I mean, is obvious. they have to
Yes,
find
true.
themselves in a situation where they must get burned in order to learn. But that's all right. We'll teach them.
How many times, Lennox, the lady asked them, let her discuss it. No, it's not important. It's not. When it started killing all the people now, she still wanted to discuss it with them. Look at how many doctors that are in the UNC was willing to give advice, but they was taking the advice from the buck, the Barbie doll, and the crier.
Yes.
You understand? They wasn't taking advice, real advice. They laugh at the lady when she talk about sunlight. Lennox, if they were putting those people, giving them a dose of sunlight every day, rather than putting them in an air-conditioned ward, right, where it was circulating, so many people might not have died.
And I'll tell you this.
You coming to tell me how well? Yeah?
The position they held on the SOE is ridiculously similar to that position that he held there, because
That is what
he
I'm
played the
getting
know
at.
it all, and that will not work. And now he has to call her SOE. I mean, I'm sure that if the COVID was still around, they would have had to, of course, revert to what Kamala Prasad Bisesa would have suggested to them in the early days. But go ahead.
Lennox, well, that's what I'm getting at. Now, just recently we had an outbreak of dengue. He said the people lying. He said the opposition lying.
Yeah.
They're blowing it out of proportion. This, that, and then say how many people died from the dengue.
Yeah, boy.
Right? Now the
The
same
government
thing
of
come
death.
around again. Lennox, it make it a full circle, eh?
Yeah, government of
Right?
death.
She
There
didn't
was of death.
didn't want to call the state of emergency.
Yeah.
When she begged them since January, call it, a lot more people's lives would have been saved. No, we don't need it. We this, that, and the other.
Rowley and them
Now we
have-
had to come and call it.
Blood on their hands. Blood.
Yes, Lennox. Yes.
We'll have to hurry up because I have the Jamaican guy waiting.
Yeah, no problem, Lennox. Yeah, and I just want to finish up here, Lennox.
Right.
They come in full circle. They come in full circle, Lennox, with everything that Kamala tell them.
Yeah. Clearly,
Right?
the
Everything that
credibility,
it's
I
coming
mean,
to
has
pass now.
shot through
Yeah.
the roof now. Rowley's, of course, has shot through not only the floor, but of course is heading for the core of the earth. That is how, and of
Right.
course hell. That is how devastating he has been in terms of telling lies and deceptions.
And you see how the economy was blooming, and what happening now? 3 billion missing. Thanks a lot, Lennox, and have a good night. Later.
Same to you, and all the best to you and your family. We will see you, of course. Pleasant good night, of course, my Jamaican friend. Sorry about the long delay, but I hope tonight we don't have a communication issue, even though we expect, because people will be communicating for the new year, but I suppose we'll be off long before. We'll have about 3 or 4 hours before, of course, 12 o'clock. But go ahead, my friend, in the context of Trinidad. Yeah.
Good night, man. Good night. Good night to me and my Trinidad friends, man. Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Yes. All the best to you and your family.
Yes, sir. And all is okay with me in Jamaica. But I know that the Attorney General yesterday, she speak on the Radio Jamaica show. Your Attorney General, she speak beyond the headline with Dion Jackson Miller yesterday.
All right.
We're speaking about the detention provision.
Okay.
So I am now looking at our Regulation 30 in Jamaica. Regulation 30, it's a arrest and detain and let arrest and detain authorized person to act in a manner. So these authorized person is a 3-member panel team. It could have been a retired judge or 2 retired judge or person who understand the law.
Yeah.
Where when you get picked up in the SOE, the detention.
Emergency, yes.
Yeah, you automatically have a 14-day. When an emergency had declare you have a 14-day, but you had a tribunal. Is it a tribunal set up? Because the tribunal, which is the 3-member panel, would have looked at the person who had picked up, see if they are a person of interest, or if it is not, they are not a person of interest, they would release from custody. Is there a tribunal set up?
Well, that's a very good question that you would have asked, and you are right in terms of the process. But I want to tell you this, that too often in Trinidad and Tobago, the police assume that they do not know their rights. And even if they ask for, let's say, a lawyer present, in normal circumstance, they try to, of course, undermine that right of the individual for an attorney of their own choice. And the police will, of course, do all kinds of what I consider to be obfuscations and literally, blatantly, of course, not conform to the rules. Until, of course, where someone who is serious about their rights pick up the matter, and then, of course, you have them, of course, thinking and moving differently. But generally, the young men that they would, of course, pick up willy-nilly, helter-skelter, all over the place. I saw today, of course, on George Street, a young lady is being escorted by a woman police and so on. And I know it's part and parcel of that exercise. So to respond to your point specifically, there's supposed to be, even up to the time when the announcement was being made by what I consider to be junior or lackey or irrelevant or ocious ministers like the acting attorney general once, and then of course the national security minister whose reputation has plunged so badly that he should not even be seen in public, far less to be addressing the public. Those were the two persons that were making the announcement about the SO. But guess what? The regulations were not yet ready. It wasn't even signed as yet by the president.
No. As long as you declare a state of emergency, there should be a tribunal in place, because
and the tribunal was not yet in place. No, the tribunal was not yet in place, and I don't know if it exists. Yeah.
When you declare a state of emergency, there should be a tribunal in place, because if you look at Section 14.1 of the Jamaica Constitution, it says, right on absolutely, so the government can limit your right in any circumstances what is demonstrable, justified, and fair.
We have a similar provision. Similar provision. It's just that these fellas put the cart before the horse.
But look at the liberty right, what was guaranteed in Section 14 of the Constitution. It said no person shall deprive of his liberty except under some 13 circumstances in Chapter 3. But here are the important words. The rights and freedoms may not prejudice the rights and freedoms of others. So, in terms of that, you have to have a tribunal put in place so that you can rectify the innocent or person with need of questionable character, to place them in the court. And those people who aren't a suspect, you are just having them behind the bars, arbitrary detention. We understand the right, and absolutely, but Section 14 of the Constitution speaks about the liberty right. The liberty right was guaranteed. And when you look at the Constitution, you had a three-pronged test that lays down. It must be in fair procedure, it should be demonstrable and justified. So these are the elements where we have to look at. So Mr. Rowley and the Attorney General get a tribunal in place, because people will be staying in detention center even when they are not suitable for detention center.
And that is why many concerned citizens, especially those who don't expect because they are not involved. But if they do, what we have is a very lax and a very, what I consider to be nonchalant police service, who are reluctant to adhere to the provisions of the regulation, because they wanted to give the impression that they are totally in charge, and that there are no, what I consider to be, checks and balances to their actions, and therefore that is conveyed in a way by brutal force, and not telling the people, and even if they know, as I said, they create what I consider to be undue delay or ignoring the request. And when they go to court, they will tell the court, listen, the people didn't ask for the presence of a lawyer, or didn't ask to be placed before that tribunal, they alone having, of course, control of the individual in the circumstances, because, of course, you will have no access because the regulations or the state of emergency itself, having suspended people's fundamental rights, give the police that option. So you have to have honorable people who have a respect for the rules, and would, of course, once the victim or the person held asks or is aware, must be, of course, provided for. Them not on that.
So it seems as if
speaking, they're not on that, because there's also a provision where you have a senior officer will, of course, review the case as well. But the victim or the person being held must, of course, be aware and ask. But as I said, even in those circumstances, they manipulate the situation in such a way, and then, of course, they say that nobody told them anything. Why? Because you don't have a witness to prove that. They have all the witnesses in terms of their colleagues right there conspiring, of course, to deprive you of that fundamental measure. So I'll just give you the scenario and the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. We need a total revamping in this country.
So it seems like the successful tackle the murder rate over there, they are going to take away some people's fundamental rights and freedom then.
But they have not, because just now there was a murder of a lawyer, and whilst they were speaking, laying out, of course, the parameters of this SOE, there was another murder in another part where I'm from, in Mobile Laventel side, in a place called Paradise Heights. I mean, it is not a paradise as you would think, and neither is it high. But a murder took place there as well, and we expect more. What I suspect is that this is about trying to curb reaching what I consider to be the dreaded figure of 700. I think that is what they were trying to, because I understand it is 644 at this point in time, and we have just a couple more hours before, of course, midnight to turn into 2025. So what will happen is that they will say, all right, okay, if 5 murders take place in next year, after the next 4 hours, they could say, well, listen, it is now 2025 and it's only 5. That's how I see it, because I can't see why at this late stage, and having regard to the activities that are expected, that you're going to impose a state of emergencies of the type, whether you say you have a curfew or not. But to take that measure, I think it is asinine, it is ill-advised and ill-informed, and will not, of course, breed, because after that, what they will do, just hold the people and let them go after the state of emergency. What will happen? No charges? So they go back out there and the scenario continues. Go ahead.
The opposition should always see if they can give an extension. They have to sign on to get another extension.
Yeah, well, they will be seeking. There are 15 days in our case to go to the parliament. They have to, of course, present the president's reasoning for the state of emergency, and then, of course, after that, they have extension for further 3 months, but it must not be 3 months at a time, but the extension must in totality be 6 months, and we are concerned that it has a political dimension, a political connotation, having regard to the track record of this prime minister, because he went to the parliament and unilaterally imposed 3 additional seats in Tobago. We saw that his name called in interfering with the chairman of the EBC, our Election and Boundaries Commission. We have seen him, of course, postpone local government elections. And then, of course, the Privy Council had to say, no, you can't do that. And then, of course, he told us not once, not twice, that he will have no foreign observers in Trinidad and Tobago for the local and the 2020 elections. He orchestrated, of course, that manipulation to avoid foreign observers. And now he's telling us that only CARICOM he will invite here. We want Carter Foundation, we want the United Nations, we want, of course, the OAS, and anybody else who could come, because the last elections, we saw ballot papers all over the place, and it had to be because they created a scenario to thief the 2020 general elections. Go ahead.
Well, so it seems as if you want a global framework, just not to ensure.
Yes, that is exactly it. And of course, we on the ground report, and of course in collaboration with my own program here, I have been very much in touch with the Carter Foundation. Of course, we send condolences to the family of Carter, who have died recently, former president of the United States. That organization was active in Guyana in resolving, and was part of resolving the issue there. With Granger, who tried to steal the elections in Guyana, and if it wasn't for people like those who are truly independent, Guyana might have had a different government under Granger, because it was clear that they tried to steal the elections, and Rowley clearly is of that nature. I think he's suffering from, of course, what I consider to be the Maduro syndrome. Love to steal elections. Any other issue you want to raise? Right? Oh gosh, but the communication titter continues. All right, well, call back if you have another issue to treat with, because we have to continue. It's 10 o'clock already, boy. It's 11 minutes past. Wow. Let me just play this one, just to round up and to, of course, wish everybody finally all the best.
Question 9. Will the Prime Minister state whether he will consider the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith's request to meet with him as well as the opposition leader to discuss solutions to our raging crime crisis?
Prime Minister.
All that,
Speaker,
people, all that.
As chairman of the National Security Council of Trinidad and Tobago, I have very good reasons not to meet with Gary Griffith under any circumstances.
Madman response. Madman run.
As far as meeting with the opposition is concerned, I meet with them all the time in this chamber, in front of you, Madam Speaker, and they have obstructed every single attempt we had to fight crime in this country. This is not.
So he believed that he could say that, and the records prove that whilst he was opposition leader, he did everything to obstruct Kamala Persad-Bissessar. But so he see in others delusionally, because Kamala Persad-Bissessar and they had made a pledge, and they did manifest it, to support legislation brought by the Rowley Criminal Enterprise Government. You know what I say? I said the Rowley Criminal Enterprise Government, PNM government. That if it is good legislation, they will support it. But he, listen to him when he was opposition. Listen to him.
The beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning of our action, but it is the beginning of the end of the Kamala Persad regime. The beginning of the end of the Kamala Persad regime. We will not cooperate with government of Trinidad and Tobago on any matter. We will isolate them for as long as they're in office until they leave office.
That is the man.
Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you are failed? Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you are failed?
You call on the Prime Minister to do something about crime. I'm not in your bedroom. I'm not in your choice of men. You're losing the war against the criminal element. You're losing the war against the criminal element.
Would you not say that there are benefits to consultation with people who may know more than you about the crime situation?
All that admonition, all that begging, and listen to him.
The member might be surprised, but we do that all the time.
All kind of
We're losing the war against the criminal element. I could speak about one of them who over and over tells the country at press conferences every 2 or 3 days that they will support nothing that the government brings to the parliament because they have some kind of grouse. Take an oath of office to look after the people's interests without fear or favor, malice or ill will, but going out there and telling the media every Monday morning they will support nothing that the government brings here.
And if you listen to him and you isolate that statement without connecting it to the multiple other devious and evil and undermining, including of course the emails that he concocted and his treason, I think he get away yet, treasonous emails. You would swear that he's serious. You would swear that his character is impeccable and that he's honorable and that of course he has a high moral pillar standard. But we know him and we know that he's a blasted rapscallion, and that is only pretense and playing dead to catch Kobo alive. That miscreant of a prime minister, criminal, predator, rapist and pedophile.
And that is true. We will not
Listen
cooperate
to him in
with the
opposition.
government of Trinidad and Tobago on any matter. We will isolate them for as long as they're in office until they leave office. They're losing the war against the criminal element.
This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning of our action, but it is the beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime. The beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime.
But you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. And when you have had enough of what we have done, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do.
Your vote will decide our destiny.
It's obvious that the vote is still out. But we have had enough of what he has done. How we know that? He has called a state of emergency. That's how we know. The population has had enough of what he has done. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that he has come to the end. But yet still, he called a state of emergency without calling the inevitable elections. The man is a consummate pathological. His logorrhea is unfathomable. And a total infected person with mythomania, habitual and spontaneous lying. Mythomania. A mythomaniac. Habitual and spontaneous, dishonorable individual. Liar. So this is what they should get.
What you want to be. Your vote can foretell our country's fate. Move and use it well before it's too late.
People, we have come to the end. There will be no program tomorrow night. But if you see me, don't be surprised. Tomorrow is Thursday for all intents and purposes. And we have a Friday, of course. I will normally take the night off. But if you see me tomorrow night, don't be surprised, because I think tonight's program was not yet complete. We have quite a lot of material to still, of course, share with you, to convince you that we want 39 seats in Trinidad. I say the UNC and Kamla Prasad Bisesa, whatever configuration, must get 39 seats in Trinidad. Lavantil, you better come on board. A man like me will be involved. Don't study those who have no track record. You're wasting time. Heinz had no track record. You put him there for repeated opportunities. And it turned out to be not just a sleepy, indolent, ineffective, the man they call the peacock, plenty flair but no substance, and a complete and total and consummate failure. Like the party, the PNM, like Rowley, the leader, and part and parcel of a criminal enterprise called the PNM. People, of course, it is 20 minutes past already. Yes, I have to go. I have family as well that I want to share the turning of the, let's say, the year tide with. So, have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And we have to continue, of course, understanding that there is a need to get rid of Rowley and they, and we must do so spectacularly, because this is what clearly the PNM has morphed into.
If you happen to see and know when politics going wrong, with facts and figures prepared to show, it's better to bite your tongue. To them political boss, who the people trust and get double cross, you're an obstacle to be removed at any cost. Oh, a social conscience is really very dangerous to your health. The awesome strength of the powers that be most certainly will be felt. To tell them that the priorities and performances on the par, it's poetic to hear them describe to you who you are.
Begging the master, give me a walk with Peter. If some sinners coming, with them I go be dealing. Because the things that they do me, I want to fix them personally. Peter wait, Peter look Cecil Rhodes by the gate. Money. Peter look the Englishman, we send Cecil Rhodes to Africa land. Money. Peter take Drake, take Rowley, but leave Victoria for me. Peter, I just don't care what you say, but Mussolini, he can't get away. Why? This is my time for money. I'm burning. Blazing. This is your time for money. I'm burning. Fire coming. From these madman and woman, I feel the full weight of the hand. They need the oppressed law, they never care about the poor. Peter, these people had a day. Well, now it's time for Stalin to play. Peter, wait, I say Peter, wait. Peter, look, Ian Smith by the gate. Money. Peter, I don't want you to make fuss. Remember, I want Christopher Columbus. Money. Peter, look, the Englishwoman who on South Africa refused to put sanctions. Peter,
Question 9. Will the Prime Minister state whether he will consider the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith's request to meet with him as well as the opposition leader to discuss solutions to our raging crime crisis?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as Chairman of the National Security Council of Trinidad and Tobago, I have very good reasons not to meet with Gary Griffith under any circumstances. As far as meeting with the opposition is concerned, I meet with them all the time in this chamber, in front of you, Madam Speaker, and they have obstructed every single attempt we had to fight crime in this country.
This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning of our action, but it is the beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime. The beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime.
We will not cooperate with the government of Trinidad and Tobago on any matter. We will isolate them for as long as they're in office until they leave office.
Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you have failed? Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you have failed?
You call on the Prime Minister to do something about crime. I'm not in your bedroom. I'm not in your choice of men. You're losing the war against the criminal element. You're losing the war against the criminal element.
Mr. Prime Minister, would you not say that there are benefits to consultation with people who may know more than you about the crime situation in Trinidad?
Prime Minister.
The member might be surprised, but we do that all the time. You're losing the war against the criminal element. I could speak about one of them who over and over tells the country at press conferences every 2 or 3 days that they will support nothing that the government brings to the parliament because they have some kind of grouse. Take an oath of office to look after the people's interests without fear or favor, malice or ill will, but going out there and telling the media every Monday morning they will support nothing that the government brings here. And that is true. We will not cooperate with the government of Trinidad and Tobago on any matter. We will isolate them for as long as they're in office until they leave office. You're losing the war against the criminal element.
This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning of our action, but it is the beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime. The beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime.
But you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. And when you have had enough of what we have done, you know exactly what to do. You know what to do.